is probably not anyone here's first virtual meeting overall, but this seems to be the way it's being done. So thank you all for joining and coming today. We have an agenda laid out ahead of us here. Hopefully you'll all have received it ahead of time. If I could ask for a motion to approve our AGM agenda.
Hi, John, this is Lee. I'll move.
Hi, Lee. Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second. It's Sally.
Thank you, Sally. Any discussion on the matter? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With hands or voice, if you, thank you. The motion will then carry. Thanks very much, everyone. Just some quick opening remarks. You can go past that one, Mike.
Weird.
Yeah, who is that guy?
Look like that.
Who is that guy? If
You can still get your hair cut.
that's, oh, you're not kidding. I'm almost there. I'm almost at the point where I think I'm going to go for it. Just self-cut or allow Stacy to do it. Although I'll have to social distance for a lot longer if it doesn't go well. But, so, yeah. Yeah, I just would like to say that you know, certainly during these circumstances, you know, with the pandemic and the rest, it's a time where everybody is learning what it means to be innovative. And necessity really is the mother of innovation, I guess, if I was to paraphrase. And there's no question that an organization like this supporting novel and you know, new techniques on doing old things and finding solutions to problems is now more than ever. And I think there's a lot of our members and clients that are well positioned to be there to help, you know, the regional economy bounce back and you know, make the necessary changes going forward. So you know, we're almost you know, certain that there will be numerous ways, and I think there are some already that Mike and John may allude to, where the cluster and its relationships with many of the organizations in the community are already proving very fruitful and very helpful in allowing the economy to make its way forward. So we'll hear a little bit more about that as we go. So we also have a number of very important partners that help the cluster do its great work. And what I'd like to do is recognize those partners and ask them to just take a couple minutes to say hello. And we'll start with Diane Terry, our mayor.
Hello, bonjour. Yes, thank you so much for having me here today in this new world. I mean, we're all used to it, right? The other day I was on Zoom calls for about 12 hours. And so sometimes I turn my camera off so I can eat lunch and people don't have to watch me eating a burger. But we really appreciate, one of the great things about Peterborough is the amazing work that happens regardless of what's going on. And in this particular context, I think we are well positioned, even better so than some of our neighbors, because we come together in times of adversity. And so I sit on the Eastern Ontario Mayor's Caucus. I know some of you are part of EORN or other organizations that deal with that regional approach. A lot of you are on calls with our MPP and MP, which happened later today. But Peterborough is always sort of above and beyond our colleagues in terms of coming together, being on the same page, being innovative, having vision, sharing ideas, and not trying to, you know, fight for the spotlight over one another, but rather come together to say, how will we get through this together? And so this is one of those prime examples. And the innovation cluster and all the work that all of you and your organizations do really sets us apart and positions us very well for what we call, you know, building back and the recovery piece that's coming out the other side of this. It's been challenging. I know it's been challenging for me, not just as an elected official, but personally, and I'm sure that that's the same for all of you. You know, we have loved ones and friends we want to see. We have businesses we want to you know, patron. We have 100 different things going on. And so the messaging that myself, the warden, MPP Smith, MP Monsef, and all the township elected officials have been saying is, We need to be strong, and we need to be kind of strict right now so that we can get out of this sooner, and that we don't have to go back to square one, because that's the last thing anybody wants. And so we are so fortunate in the city of Peterborough to have the innovation cluster who are on that front line of figuring out how we adapt our economy, make it more sustainable, make it more resilient, make it better suited to deal with some of these issues that are going to come up again in the future. You know, this is a global pandemic, but this isn't going to be the last one that some of us see in our lifetimes, right? Or our children or grandchildren's, or in my case, my nephews. So we need to be prepared for how we are able to make sure that we're taking care of the health and safety of our people, but also recognizing that the economic recovery is a huge piece, and mental health and well-being is so tied not only to this isolation, but to that economic piece. So I think that the provincial government has been doing a very good job in their phased reopening plan. And I'm very fortunate to have ongoing communication with MPP Smith, and the information that we are feeding up to the province and the feds is being heard and is being incorporated into the policy decisions and the programming that they are rolling out. And so I know that a lot of you around the table are part of the Mayor and Warden's Task Force, which also meets today. And it is so important to have those ongoing lines of communication, because I don't know it all. I don't know what it's like for a lot of your businesses, your individual circumstances, the perspectives that you bring. I need to know those. I need to be able to feed those up to those bigger levels of government that have more money than the municipality, but also that is making the decisions that are going to impact our community, not just now, but 2, 4, 6 weeks and months down the line. So I just wanted to put that out there. Feel free to email me anytime, phone or text. My cell is 705-872-7905. And that, you know, I'm more than willing to hear ideas that I might not know. So I'm just putting that out there. I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. The task force has been very helpful in bringing some of those issues forward around, say, rent relief, around the CERB, around the student funding, those kinds of things. So we just need to keep that communication going. And so I'm here whenever you need me, and I appreciate all the work that all of you are doing. And I will stop talking now because I've taken more than my time, but just wanted to say thank you so much, and be well and be a part. But I am always here if you need to talk to me. So just want to make sure that everybody knows that.
Perfect.
Turn
Thank
back
you,
over,
Diane.
John. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Next up, we have another one of our partners, Representative Andy Letham is here to speak on behalf of the City of Kawartha Lakes.
Yeah, it's actually Deputy Mayor.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the old one. Sorry, Deputy Mayor Patrick O'Reilly. Sorry, Patrick.
You're muted, sir.
I can't hear him.
Hear me now?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
perfect.
There we go.
Okay. Good afternoon, and thanks everyone for the invitation to the annual general meeting. Mayor Latham had another meeting today, so you're stuck with me for a few minutes today. I just want to say on behalf of myself and council, I'd like to thank you for the invitation to the Innovation Cluster annual general meeting. I know that the forum for this year's AGM is different from what we typically use, but unusual circumstances aside, I'm happy that we can come together to celebrate the contributions to the Peterborough and Kawartha Lakes Innovation Cluster that have made our community. I've been lucky enough to witness the great partnership that has emerged between the city, the Innovation Cluster, and the Kawartha Lakes Community Futures Development. I can confidently say that between the Innovation Cluster and the Kawartha Lakes Small Business and Entrepreneurship Center, that there are excellent resources and wide-reaching supports for the businesses in our municipality. Prior to the pandemic, we had 7 businesses working out of the Kawartha Lakes Incubator, and have since added 3 more to the roster. It's encouraging to see ongoing support for the business in our community despite the challenging times that we find ourselves in. So I'd like to thank you all for the contributions toward this effort. We appreciate your hard work, and I speak on behalf of the council when I say that we're looking forward to seeing more business start up and grow in Kawartha Lakes. And just on a side note, I would like to mention that we have established the Economic Recovery Task Force, which is focusing on stimulating local economic and business recovery. And we want to work with our business and supportive partners and work towards an economic recovery by partnering strategically. And above all, be well and stay safe.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Next, if Eve is here, does Janet know that you're using her Zoom account? But Eve,
actually, for some reason, this thing keeps coming up, Janet. So I think she's been using this computer, which is the Pran computer, so she shouldn't do that. But anyway, thanks for the invitation. We have commented a few times in the past about our relationship with the cluster. So I'll be quite quick in my remarks. I do want to reinforce that our board and our members specifically value the cluster and our relationship quite highly. For Pran, the cluster is a gateway into the startup ecosystem in our community and across the province. And that's for early stage innovative companies. And as we've said before, the synergistic and mutually beneficial relationship between our two organizations is really quite well recognized by our funders, FedEv, which I think most of you are quite familiar with. And the Angel Investors of Ontario is an organization which has 13 members. Peterborough is one of those 13 members. It's an umbrella group. And they also recognize what we're doing in Peterborough. Mike, for example, has been there a number of times. John knows all of the folks in that organization very well. They talk about us as a model for this kind of partnership across the province. They believe, and in fact, the umbrella organization, the Angel Investors of Ontario, have actually partnered with OCE in a similar way that we have partnered with the Innovation Cluster. So for us, we value this tremendously, and it's particularly interesting to see under these kind of trying circumstances how great the cluster's outreach is to the community, even in those situations. So thanks.
thank you very much, Eve. Moving on, we have Dr. Tom Phillips representing Fleming College. Oh, Tom, you're still muted.
Sorry,
There we go.
got it. Nice to be back again this year and talk about what Fleming's doing with its partnership with the Innovation Cluster. Certainly, we've made good use out of the Applied Project Hub. We have a number of programs doing applied projects that are there, including marketing, sporting goods management, international trade, project management, and international business management. We also have some tech involvement. I'll talk about the tech in a minute. In the facilities, we use it for team meetings and client meetings and strategy sessions and instruction. And it provides an opportunity for our students to actually come to work in preparation for entering the workforce through proper attire, proper conduct. That's something we can't often do in a traditional classroom. And the cluster has been really generous about letting us use the facilities, the boardroom, and the meeting rooms downstairs. And our students and faculty get the network with the staff and clients at the Innovation Cluster and maintain connections to the rest of the business community. Several of our students have gone on to incubate at the Innovation Cluster, and several of the cluster's clients are hiring Fleming's students. We've successfully completed applied projects for cluster clients, including Ribbit, Unlock Math, Entomo Farms, and Alexander Optical. And at its busiest time, when we have projects, applied projects being done, as many as 150 students go through this applied project hub a week. Now, in terms of technology, there's the exciting thing, quite recent, is the use of the 3D printers in the makerspace. So what has been done in the makerspace is creating PPE face shields for healthcare. And they're made with the parts of them are made using the makerspace 3D printers. Now, this has been led by a faculty member of Fleming in the School of Trades and Technology, that's Faradun Diba, supported by Mary McLeod, who's the operations manager in the school, and the computer technologist, Phil Chi. And through their work, they produced more than 500 pieces for face shields. And those have been given to frontline healthcare workers in the Peterborough region. So, and the leader of that group, the real initiative, came from Dylan Radcliffe, who was a Fleming grad. So a really positive contribution to what's needed in our difficult times now. So we're keeping very active, value the partnership, and see it expanding in the future.
Thank you, Tom. That's great. And last but not least, we have John Knight from Trent University.
Thanks, John. Can everybody hear me all right?
You bet.
First of all, regrets from Dr. Neil Emery. Neil has developed superpowers in Zoom video skills, and he's become a chair of a Council of Ontario Universities committee that is structuring the back to work policy, or back to work and research procedures for 22 universities in the province. A lot of universities, including Trent, have moved into phase 1 of back to work in the labs. We have a 4-phase plan to get back to work, but right now we're in a very limited back to work in some of our labs, but we can handle inquiries from industry if there is any. Just did one recently with John Gillis for Kawartha Ethanol, where we can do some work for them if they need it. So that is an example of why Trent is involved with the Innovation Cluster, and has been from day one back in 2004, is to work use the cluster resources to help with working with industry partners who may need research work done at the university. The second benefit that we have had working with the cluster is promoting and enabling youth entrepreneurship. And back when the province funded the program, we made an early decision to work with the cluster. A lot of universities worked on their own and did their own thing, but we decided early on to work with the cluster, and in all our programming that we would have with youth entrepreneurship, and the cluster provided professional services that they would provide any entrepreneur. And when that program was running, called Fast Start, we were in the top quartile in the province with our metrics and accomplishments with our entrepreneurship program. So it was a very good partnership, and continues, even though the funding that we had for that program has gone away. We've managed to have a legacy and continue on with the supporting youth entrepreneurs. And the third thing that's happening is the City of Peterborough and Trent are partnering on the Clean Tech Commons, and the Innovation Cluster has developed one of the sectors of expertise and development is clean technology as well as agri-food technology. And these are two prime areas of that we're looking to expand and attract companies or build new companies working out of the Clean Tech Commons at Trent University. And there'll be some announcements around that in the not too distant future, positive announcements. So we're looking forward to those happening. And by the fall, you'll see some really exciting things happening there. So I think that's all. Happy to be here today, and looking forward to the future of what's going to take place with the Innovation Cluster as we move ahead.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, John. And I have to again thank all of our partners. It's not just financial support that they provide, but it's certainly the resources and network and knowledge that they bring to the table as well. And it greatly enhances our ability to do the work that's done here at the cluster. So again, thank you to all of you. We'll move on now to the next item on the agenda, which is just a quick check-in on any declarations of pecuniary interest that anyone may have based on the meeting as it stands. I hear none, so we'll carry on. We now have the minutes of our previous AGM, which was almost a year ago, May 30th, 2019. So I'll be seeking a motion to approve those minutes from our May 30th, 2019 meeting of a year ago.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Sally. I have a seconder.
Diane?
Thank you, Diane. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hands or voice? Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Aye.
And motion carries. Moving on, we are, it's that time of year when we've just had our financial statements reviewed, audited by Baker Tilly, and it's that time that Joanna comes up and takes us through that auditor's report. So if Joanna, if you're willing and able, we'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, John, for having me today. A little different, not in person, but we'll try to get through it, and I'll walk you through the highlights anyway. It is a clean auditor's opinion this year, clean auditor's report, which is what you would expect to see. The board has approved the financial statements, and now they're coming to the AGM as a matter of good business. On the statement of financial position, which it lists all the assets and liabilities, lots of changes this year. During 2019, the city and the innovation cluster now, they're working separately for the bookkeeping. So now the innovation cluster has their own bank account, which at the end of December was $326,000. At the end of 2018, there was a lot of receivables and HST owing. That was all paid or received during 2019. So helping to contribute to that financial cash position. There's a little bit of tangible capital assets this year. There was some additions, but they weren't as much as the amortization. So there was a decrease from $373,000 to $316,000 in the tangible capital assets, which is almost half of the total assets, totaling total assets $675,000 this year at the end of 2019. All is accounts payable liabilities at the end of the year, as well as the large amount due to the city to account for the separation there of the bookkeeping. The amount owing to the city at the end of December was $465,000. Added into accounts payable and other amounts owing, $517,000 in liabilities at the end of the year, leaving a fund balance or amount going forward in the invested intangible capital assets as well as the operating fund of $157,000. Looking at the revenue and the expenses during the year, the cluster had budgeted $699,500 in revenue and came in at $720,000, which is a good feat in the Ontario Centers of Excellence. A budget of $200,000, which of course had decreased to $50,000 during 2019. So that was unexpected, but with the help of the the partners that we've all heard from already today, as well as memberships and sponsorships and rental revenue and miscellaneous revenue, they were able to actually exceed the budgeted revenue. With that said, though, the expenses also exceeded the budget. The budget for the expenses was the same as the revenue, $699,500, and total expenses were $846,508. So the expenses exceeded the revenue in total by $125,000. 68,000 of that is an operating deficit in year. The rest of it is contributed to capital assets and the amortization of those tangible capital assets. So at the end of 2019, the unrestricted or the operating fund is sitting in a deficit of $158,000. The board is well aware of this, and they are looking at that in their future budgeting, and hopefully there'll be some announcements soon. Within the financial statements are the regular notes that you'll see. Included this year, though, is disclosure about the amount owing to the city and the payment terms on that. Right now, it is interest only. And there is also a subsequent event note, which of course relates to the COVID matter and the reason we're having our meeting this way. The amounts right now can't be quantified as to the effects to the organization of COVID, but of course we all know that there will be some, and we'll see that in the 2020 statement. And that is my report, John.
Great, thank you, Joanna. Does anyone have any questions for Joanna? Going once, twice. Okay. Thank you, Joanna. Great work as always.
Thank you.
Perhaps I'll seek a motion. We've approved this at board, but seek a motion to receive the financial statements as audited and approved by, or audited by Baker Tilly.
I will move that.
Oh,
Thank you, Bill. Seconder?
I will second it. Nicole?
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, any discussion on the matter? All in favor?
In favor.
Aye.
Hands or voices?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, motion passes. We'll move on now to, thank you again, Joanna. We'll move on now to the CEO report. Mike Skinner.
Excellent, John. Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone that's attending virtually today. As you can imagine, it's been interesting, trying times over the last 2.5 months for startups. It's typically very hard to be a startup and an entrepreneur as it is on a normal day, and as you can imagine, in today's day, it's been a bit trickier. But we've got a great team that's been working with the innovation cluster. So there's 5 of us that basically support our clients, and I'm happy to say that we've been able to pivot as our organization to better align ourselves with what our clients need, and to continue supporting them. And we have a few clients obviously that we're a bit concerned about just with the situation, but we've also received a number of incoming requests to be clients as well. And so I think at the end of the day, you'll see the net over the next little while to be very similar. We'll have, like we always do, some clients just don't make it because that's the nature of being an entrepreneur, and other ones do when they come on, and when things change in the market, organizations and people pivot towards that. One of the reasons why we can continue delivering with such a small base is because we have a great set of core partners. And so I want to make sure that everybody remembers that our core funding partners, they not only do they bring us with money, obviously, and funds in order to operate, but also a lot of their members also support us in other ways as well. And so it's key to have them as part of our ecosystem. And beyond our core funding partners, of course, we've got lots of other organizations that support us. So whether they're zone partners, program partners, knowledge partners, or entrepreneur sponsors, they all provide, in most cases, a financial support, but they also provide, which is typically much more invaluable, is they provide mentorship and network support for our clients to really grow their businesses and to expand. We, as most of you know, we have a very large catchment area that we support. So our board's decision about 5 years ago was to try and to expand and to very much align our catchment area with all of our partners, including Fleming and Trent, which had a larger footprint of attraction for students, as well as the different municipalities. And so we have basically 3 physical presences as part of this structure. So one is the downtown location, of course, in Peterborough. Second one is a location at Trent University. And the newest one that we just opened up in February of this year is the city of Kawartha Lakes. And we heard the deputy mayor mention that we started off with 7 clients, and really during COVID we've increased that up to 10. So that's a great example of where, despite not having access to the physical environment that we hoped, and again, our physical environments, remember, are all designed around collisions. We want individuals to sort of collide with each other and to constantly share information. Obviously, in a time of social distancing, collisions are not something that we want to see. But those physical presences are there, and of course, they're ready to go when we come to the other side of this pandemic. And as I'd mentioned, we had just launched the City of Kawartha Lakes Incubator, which is it's a great starting incubator. And again, it's a nice, I think, icon and sort of beachhead that we've placed in the City of Kawartha Lakes to really remind people of what our organization can do and how our mandate is to support innovative companies inside that catchment area. Just as a little reminder for those of you that don't know, we focus basically on 4 key sectors. So we focus on clean technology, healthcare, agriculture technology, and digital technology. If I had done this list last year and the year before, as I have, typically our size-wise, it's sort of digital technology is our largest group of clients. Then typically we went into clean technology, agriculture technology, and then healthcare was basically our smallest. But as you can imagine, with COVID, we've seen the largest amount of increase of clients coming from types of solutions around healthcare. So we're seeing a huge focus on that. Obviously, from an innovation point of view, innovation is typically based off of demand and circumstances, and we're really seeing our community step up to try and help out in that space, which has been really good for us to see. Again, we focus on the commercialization of academic research, so working very, very closely with Trent University and making sure that the research that's being done at Trent University comes out, and that obviously we help commercialize it and make sure that it gets to market. The Applied Project Hub, and we heard Dr. Tom Phillips talk about it at the beginning. I mean, it's been I think it's been a key part of what we've done with the downtown Peterborough location. It's been something that having 150 students go through there every week has been a great way to connect with the kind of next generation, and hopefully it's the next generation of entrepreneurs and employees that we're seeing. The drive was always to, once we've got students here, we always talk about how do we keep young people, or how do we get young people into the community. But the reality is it's not getting them into the community, it's keeping them, because both of our academic partners have a large number of students that come from outside of our community. And that is in many ways the next future of, like you said, entrepreneurs and employees. And this is a great pillar for us to do that. As well, Dr. Tom Phillips mentioned that we've got a makerspace as well that we've created in conjunction that that FLEMING has put together. It's not launched to the public yet, although they obviously responded very quickly around the PPE and to fill a void. And so very soon we're looking forward to doing a full announcement with FLEMING College and really putting that center back in place as we come out of this pandemic. The other piece too is we launched an H2O makerspace last year. So we basically have a clean tech makerspace, a virtual reality makerspace. We launched the water, the H2O makerspace, and then of course the 3D printer makerspace. One of the reasons why I wanted to put that slide in here is because many of you remember that last year and the year before, Peterborough and the region basically came in first for Ontario for best place for water startups, second in the country. Well, we're also seeing a lot of accolades when it comes to personnel and people as well. So John Gillis, our president, is currently up for nomination as the business leader category for Water Canada's Water's Next individual, which it's coming out June 11th, so we're obviously watching that very closely. Chris Metcalf as well from Trent University is in for the academic leader category, and Aclaris, which was one of our former clients and was something that the Angels, a number of the Angels had invested in, is up for projects and technology. So again, of the I think 6 categories that are at Water Canada, we basically have something in 3 of those 6. So it's again, I think, a true testament to our community when it comes to water technology, and fits very, very nicely into our water makerspace. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we impact Peterborough and the Kawarthas. And again, a stat I always like to remind everybody is, 80% of startups fail in their first 2 years. But if they go through an incubation program, we can bring that down to 30%. This is a national statistic, but it also fits very, very well with what we've done and with how we work with our clients. And so I think it's crucial as we come through this time of a pandemic and COVID that we remember that, because again, our objective is to help our economy recover within our region. And one of the ways we're going to do that is through entrepreneurs and innovation. So we basically have 3 focuses. So constantly strengthening the innovation and entrepreneurship capacity. So we're basically working within that ecosystem to make sure we're constantly bringing in partners, bringing more innovators, more entrepreneurs, and constantly making sure that innovation and entrepreneurship is on the forefront of many people's minds. We assist those companies in the formation. So everything from reviewing their business plans, helping them with financials, helping them with pitches, providing them with mentorship, access to mentors, really the full gamut of making sure that we give those entrepreneurs that want to take the risk of being an entrepreneur, really give them the tools necessary for them to have the best chance of being successful. And the last thing is to really grow our overall economy. So really driving our knowledge-based economy. I mean, one of the nice things about the knowledge-based economy in this time is a lot of it is virtual. It's not always a physical-based economy. And so it means that, individuals in this space can pivot a lot faster, and they have pivoted. And so they can quickly go to, from working from home or working in other areas, basically. And even, we've got some of our clients where they've gone back for family reasons. They've gone back home, and some of those staff members are all back at in their house where they may have come from. A lot of them are students that moved to this area to go up for academic studies and then stayed. And some of them have gone back to be closer with their families, but they can continue building their businesses through this knowledge-based economy that we've created. Next, I'm going to pass it over to two of our advisors, really, to talk about sort of where some of our customers are. So Rose is up, and Rose is going to talk about both agriculture technology as well as digital technology. And I'll turn it over to Rose Terry.
Thanks, Mike. I'm very excited to highlight some of our amazing startups that we work with today. It was hard to pick out of all of them because we work with so many, but I just wanted to give a little highlight and a little snippet because I know for many of you, you don't always get to see the behind the scenes. And one thing I wanted to start off by saying is despite all of the challenges that have been happening throughout COVID, I really do think, based on what we've been hearing from our clients, some of them are struggling, but I do think the tech and innovation sector, we're going to see some substantial growth moving forward, just based on meetings with our clients, as well as collecting metrics from them as well. So the two that I'm going to focus on today are obviously agriculture technology and digital technology. Starting with agriculture, our tech startups had a huge impact in 2019. From that sector, we saw $3.5 million impact, which is amazing. And the startup that I wanted to highlight in that sector, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, is Chip Treats with the founder Brooke Hammer. They have recently moved into the e-commerce space, which was actually something they had been working on prior to COVID. And it actually ended up being a good thing for their brand. And they launched Fruitful Smoothies. They've hired on 2 more staff recently, which is great to see that type of growth. And they are actually currently working on some R&D for a new product launch in June, which is very exciting, and I can't wait for everyone to be able to see what that new product is. Moving into digital technology, we, as Mike mentioned earlier, we do have majority of our clients are in the digital sector. So I would say about 50% of our clients are in the digital sector. And so it's not surprising when you look at the digital sector that we see about 41% of our 2019 metrics are coming from that sector. So it's $4.4 million in 2019. The 2 notable startups that we wanted to highlight from that sector that have seen some pretty significant growth are, first of all, Pilates on Demand with the founder, Jess Dalliday, and she's seen 277% growth in actually just since March 2020, which is pretty amazing. So she was actually set up for something like this to be of benefit to her business, as well as the people that are looking for that type of support. She also launched a not-for-profit program. So she's partnered with the Peterborough Humane Society, the City of Peterborough, the Yes Shelter, Hospice Peterborough, and more, all through her not-for-profit program, which is very exciting. And the last client that I would like to highlight as part of my update is StreamBed Media. They're a newer client with us, but they're doing all kinds of amazing things. And if you haven't heard of them before, that's okay, because they have not launched yet. They are launching next week, though. They are a publishing tool and analytics engine. So their app will be releasing in beta version next week. So keep your eye open for that. But really exciting news from them. They've actually recently grown their company from 5 to 15 employees, which is amazing. And 5 of those recently hired staff are from Trent University, and that was just in the last 4 months. So very exciting news from StreamBed Media, and I'm really happy to be able to highlight some of the really cool startups that are coming out of the region. And now I'd like to pass it to John to talk about clean tech and healthcare. Hi.
Great, thanks Rose, appreciate it. Yeah, I'm here to talk about both clean tech and healthcare. So I'll start with healthcare, and because that's been pretty well the biggest momentum in our history, what we're going through right now. And the COVID pandemic has certainly had a financial burden on some of the hospitals that were in our area. One of our companies that we do work with is called Lab Improvements, who develop and engineer medical devices. One of their medical devices that they just recently launched was called a slide tracker. And what it did, it sorted, libraried, and processed slides that had blood samples on them. And they had installed it at the Peterborough Regional Health Center, and to date they've processed and sorted and libraried over 200,000 slides. So it's been a remarkable device for the hospital. They're really pushing for other areas where they can use that device. They've also looked at Toronto General Hospital as another source to put a trial in to look at their lab, but obviously because of COVID, it's slowed that down a fair bit. They are working with another one of our startups called Arc of Life, which is a medical device. And what that is, it's basically to correct your back and neck issues, your upper back and lower neck issues. And it's strictly because of long use of a cell phone, because you're always hunched over. So they've developed and engineered a device for this company, and they're working with them directly to basically improve and have this device sold over e-commerce. So they've done a lot of work with them through that process and have gained a lot of experience over it. I've been texted by one of our individuals, Frandino. He wanted me to bring up, there's an Access.io, which brings startups in the healthcare side to investors. We've gone to a number of these IOs, and they're quite a venue for startups to get involved with investors. That's November 18th, and I think that's down in the Oshawa area, but Frank will give us more information and we'll fully announce that later on the healthcare. On the clean tech side, we've got a really exciting company, which you've heard before, Horizon Aircraft. They've been in partnership and they've been working diligently on their technology, which is a hybrid engine. So basically taking a Corvette engine and put it together with a battery operated motor. The motor's used for takeoff and landing, so it's a very whisper quiet landing and takeoff in the device. They've just recently gone through a process where they've sold off that technology, a majority shareholder, which was well over $10 million. So we were instrumental on putting these two organizations together to get that moving. They're now filed their first US non-provisional utility patent for a unique design, and that design's on the wingspan. So they're developing eVTOL, and what a VTOL is, a vertical takeoff and landing. So it's a device that they're working on right now. They've got all the engineering going on. They've got the money to build up a 1/3 scale prototype, and it'll be a working prototype. So they'll be building up 2 of those for full operations. So hopefully that will be done in the next month or 2. They're actually working with Fleming College to do a lot of the 3D printing at Fleming College. So it's that partnership that works really well with Fleming and the academia and all our startups. So we will look forward to showcasing their VTOL within the next few months.
Great, thank you very much, John, and thank you, Rose, for that update. So obviously that always begs the question of, you know, what have we been doing for the last year, or how we've been supporting our clients. I mean, that's obviously a key piece. Next couple of slides, I just want to talk about is sort of the quantitative numbers. So obviously it's key for us as part of our awareness. You know, we've published 35 blogs in the last year. So you think about that, we're basically publishing a blog every other week. Press releases issued, sort of the same idea. You sort of every other week. You know, pickups are 132, so we're getting a lot of pickups when you take a look at that. Public events, again, we ran 29 public events and had just under 1,500 attendees. So key thing for us is, you know, how are we measuring what our impact is when it comes to the operational side of what we're doing. When it turns into companies supported, so 49 companies were supported in the last year. 4 of them in the used sector, and which gives us a number of 53. So a good number of companies, obviously, that we're continuing to support. Just put some logos up here. These are not obviously all of our clients, but I just wanted to remind a lot of people sort of see these logos. I'm sure from time to time, some of these organizations, you know, we see obviously on a daily basis, and it's just kind of nice sometimes to put them all together on one slide. But the biggest, the next 2 slides for me are always the key ones. So, you know, how many jobs at the end of the day, you know, our measurement criteria for me is pretty simple. You know, how many jobs are we helping to support? You know, how many full-time and part-time jobs are being created by what we do? And so 212 is that number. And our overall impact. So basically this is money that's been a personal investment, equity investment, loans, grants. This is money that we've basically helped our clients, and our clients have basically been able to go out and get. This money, for the most part, is ended up being spent back in our region, is just slightly over 10 million. So again, kind of testament to the team and what our clients and the entrepreneurs that are taking the risk are doing inside of our ecosystem. Next slide I have, which I hope works, is just a video that this is a video that we sourced internally, and Rachel actually put together. So it's something that we didn't outsource, we actually put it together, but really sort of put things for COVID kind of in perspective for us. I'm just gonna play it for you guys.
We provide an ecosystem of collaboration like none other to help startups grow and succeed. But the world is not how it used to be, which means we must make a change to our ecosystem, and startups must innovate now more than ever. Startups, they specialize in being the change we want to see in the world. They were made for this. And the world needs them right now, for innovation, hope, growth. They are transforming the world. Through digital technology, healthcare, agriculture, and clean technology. And we still support them through mentorship, guidance, and virtual workshops. Our ecosystem is still thriving. We are still helping startups shape the future.
So, I mean, obviously the purpose for that was to, to really push the message out there that, obviously it's a time that's tough for everybody, but there are going to be success stories that are going to come out of this, and people are going to respond, and, organizations that are going to become more resilient, new organizations are going to be created because of the demand. And obviously we want to be in the forefront of that, especially when it comes to innovation as a community. I think we're well positioned for it. And, it's our job as the innovation cluster, along with our partners, such as PKAD and the City of Kawartha Lakes Economic Development, to make sure that we continue driving entrepreneurship as something that people consider taking, and that they take the risk for it. Next slide is just really quickly. So obviously I've said a few times, we pivoted as an organization as well when it came to COVID. I mean, we immediately implemented Zoom. We started doing all of our meetings from Zoom. We've held so far 14 virtual meetings. Last year, it's basically a similar number to what we did last year when it came to the number of events. Attendees wise, I mean, we're very close to the number of attendees so far virtually as we did last year in our physical meeting. So we're obviously trying to push the envelope as much as possible. A lot of the topics at the beginning were very much time sensitive. New funding comes out, HR issues. Really, how do organizations deal with what's being thrown at them? Most of us, none of us have really been through this type of pandemic situation before, this type of change. But now what we're really moving into is, okay, how do we come out of that? So some of our workshops are, how do you work within government grants? How do you structure your finances? We've had the angel network. So we're going back into, okay, we're now in kind of recovery mode. And how do we help these organizations and entrepreneurs that are willing to continue taking the risk, or the new ones that are starting to take the risk? How do we make sure that they come through that? So a lot of other things, like you said, virtual incubation. We've expanded our programs to be entirely virtual. We've implemented Zoom. We've increased the capacity of our clients to connect. We've also done a lot of things around the mental health. Mental health is always a key part of what we do quietly. It's something that we don't always talk about, but both John and Rose, when they're working with our clients, I mean, it's stressful to be an entrepreneur. A lot of times it's those are the individuals that sort of hear people that are at their wits' end, whether it's a process didn't work the way they wanted it to, or financially they don't have the cash that they expected, or they've hired a bunch of people and they didn't get the investment money as fast as they thought it was coming in. It's pretty stressful. And so we're continuing to do that, but obviously you've got a pandemic on top of that as well. And, some of our clients are used to kind of bouncing those ideas because they don't have anybody else that they can talk to. And so we're maintaining those relationships. We've done some interesting things like putting together some Spotify music tracks for people when they're working from home. We've done both virtual breakfast as well as a virtual brunch, as well as our kind of cube lunches. We used to always have these lunches once a month to kind of get entrepreneurs together, and we now run them virtually. So we're constantly paying attention to that. And the number of applicants coming into our program right now has gone up. We've seen an increase of people applying to be a cluster client. And again, a lot of it was around PPE and some healthcare, but now we're seeing other ideas coming out as well. And we're going to continue seeing the expansion as people go forward from here. The next two slides, and I think actually John is on, I saw him on my screen earlier, but basically just some of the things that people are saying about us from a quote point of view. And again, it's always nice that I can talk about how great the team is, but for me, it's more important that we have, our startups actually talk about it. And so I think these two quotes are very, very important. And I have two more quotes as well. So again, 4 real big quotes, which the theme is that, we responded, we're working with our clients, and they're happy to see what we're doing. And also you're seeing the results of our previous events that I was talking about. I mean, we're seeing the results. Obviously, I want to fast forward into the next 6 months, and hopefully this is going to translate into more and more jobs, which is a key piece for us, and economic impact. And it's not just our clients, though, is that we are also being recognized by the ecosystem. I know Frank was on here earlier, so thank you for the quote. The part of it, the quote that I always love is Frank's sort of last statement. I mean, Frank is an angel investor, and and his investments that he's made into our companies are thriving. And so I think it's always a good testament. It's hard to get money as an entrepreneur, but when you come through a program like the Innovation Cluster, and if other investors have invested into our clients and they're seeing a return, we're obviously hoping that's going to continue driving more and more of a return to happen. And that is the end of my report. So thank you very much. And John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks very much, Michael. Are there any questions for Mike at this time?
It's not a question, it's more of a comment. Just Pat O'Reilly from Kawartha Lakes, and on behalf of the mayor and our staff, I just want to say thank you, Michael, for all the help you've given us since our startup in February, and we're looking forward to continuing working with you and with our new clients.
Thank you, appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Pat. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. It is the elections of our directors. So you'll see the slate of directors as it is. Some very capable people there. And if I could get a motion to, I guess, approve the election of the directors for the coming year as presented on this slide. I won't read out all their names.
John, Steve Bignell here. Should we have received Mike's report?
Good call. Well, back up. If I could get
I'll
a
make
motion.
the
All right, thank you. That's a motion to receive Mike's report. Can I get a seconder on that?
Nicole, second.
Thank you, Nicole. All in favor?
In favor.
Aye.
Great. Thanks. Okay, so moved. Or so approved. So now we'll move on to the election. Thanks again for that, Dave. For the board of directors. So if I could ask to get a motion to approve the election of the directors as shown here on this slide.
I'll move it, Diane.
Thank you, Diane.
I'll second it, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. We'll call that motion approved, and we'll carry on now to the officers. We have Nicole Stevenson has joined us as vice chair, our treasurer Steve Henderson, Diane as our secretary, and then of course John and Mike as our president and CEO respectively. So if I could similarly now have a motion to approve the election of the officers as shown here.
I'll move Dave Bignell.
Thank you, David. Seconder?
I'll second it, Pat O'Reilly.
Thank you. All in favor?
In favor.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we'll call that motion approved. Thank you very much. Now, in other business, there's one other item that, in the theme of appointments, our finance committee has reviewed options for auditors, and so it's that time of year when we would now appoint our auditors for the coming year, next year around this time. And Steve, if you wanted to make that motion.
Yes, I'd make the motion that we retain Baker Tilly as our auditors again for 2020.
Great. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Sally. All in favor?
In favor.
Aye.
Okay, and I think that's everyone. And so motion is approved. Thanks very much. Next, we have our committee assignments. So we'll identify that we've got myself, Steve Henderson, Diane Richard, and Nicole Stevenson as the Exec and Nominations Committee. And as well, we have myself and Steve and Nicole as the Finance Committee. So if I may ask for a motion to approve the committee assignments as shown.
I can make that
I'll
motion.
move it, Dave Bignell.
Thank you, Dave. Seconder? Sorry, I didn't catch it.
I'll second it, Pat O'Reilly.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All in favor?
I think John Knight also seconded as well.
No, John Knight. Okay, John Knight. Thank you. All in favor?
In favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thanks very much. Motion is approved. Bylaw amendments, I don't believe we have any. Just confirming that. We have that as a standing item usually. Diane, there aren't any bylaw amendments, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And we've now moved on to closing comments. So again, I really thank everyone for turning up and being here to share in really just a reflection on the past year and where things are headed this year. It's, you know, the word of the month seems to be uncertainty, but you know, I would say that at least in the world of entrepreneurs and startups, that's, if anybody's used to uncertainty or comfortable with uncertainty, it's certainly them. But we're all feeling it now, and so you know, going forward, hopefully we'll be able to acclimatize and adapt to the changes that come in front of us, and rise to the new challenges that'll undoubtedly we'll be facing. But I think, you know, we find in this community and in the region, we're certainly stronger going forward the longer this goes on. So resiliency and collaboration, I think, are going to be big themes for the future and what becomes the new normal. So with that, if I could just ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it, Dave Bignell.
Thanks, Dave. And with that, I think we are adjourned. So thank you, everyone. I had a good number of people turning up. So thank you. Thank you again for being here.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
John.
Take care, everyone. Be well.
I know.
Bye-bye.